Welcome to Engaging Culture, a podcast presented by Bridgeway Christian Church. I am Brian Kiley. Today is New Year's Day, and my co-host Pastor Lance Hahn and I are going to talk about three big things for 2019. We are going to share three big goals or resolutions or changes we're hoping to make in this new year and why we're going to go about making those changes. Hopefully, you'll find some of it inspiring, interesting, maybe a little bit weird. Who knows? We'll find out. We have not even told each other what our big three things are, so we're finding out right along with you. So enjoy the episode and Happy New Year. All right, here we go. Season 2, episode 16 of the Engaging Culture podcast. We are recording early, but this is being released on New Year's Day. So, Happy New Year, Lance.
Hey, thank you very much. It was my birthday yesterday.
Oh, well, you don't look a day older than you'll be in 2 weeks.
You'll be in 2 weeks.
Congratulations.
Yeah, this is like a time-bending thing.
It is a little time-bending. So I want to ask you, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, what will you be doing on the time this episode goes live? Do you guys have anything special you do on New Year's Day? Or?
Well, so with our kiddos, we've gone through the different seasons in our life where you use the ball drop in New York,
yep.
right? Which is so 9 o'clock, yep. And then woo, and then everybody goes to bed. And then there's seasons when you have to do midnight. I think we're back into the midnight season kind of groove of our lives. Mm-hmm. And it's so funny how lame we are because like everybody's waiting, and it used to be like Rockin' Christmas. Now there's so many different commercials.
Yeah.
And it's like everyone's getting bored and they're all starting to fall asleep, and it just looks like we are a retirement home. Wow. At our house.
That's
where
funny.
Everyone's like, you know what, this is stupid. Why are we doing this? We're all going to bed. So, and that is my birthday. That's how my birthday ends.
Yay.
And then on the morning, right? So like January 1st, 2019, that day we're probably just all like trying to fall asleep and I don't know. I'm looking to eat something. I think that's it. Do you have any better things that you guys do?
I mean, that was pretty inspiring.
Oh, it was. Woo!
Yeah, I mean, we're obviously in the little kids season of life, so we are big fans of the 9 o'clock ball drop and or the Netflix fake countdowns, which you can just play sort of whenever you want. Netflix makes these, a lot of companies do, but they make these little countdowns that you can play with different characters.
That is disingenuous.
It is extremely disingenuous. Fun fact, by the way, Christy and I, before we were married, this was in college, and a family had asked her to babysit on New Year's Eve, and they said that I could join them. And the little girl we were babysitting at 11:57 p.m. says, "I have to go to the bathroom. Can we pause it?" We're like, I don't think you get how this works, child. Anyway,
yes.
So yeah, we're hoping to we got a lot of kids in the neighborhoods, hoping to maybe do a little neighborhood thing where we, watch the ball drop at 9 and then, hey, everyone's asleep by 10:30.
That's
it's
awesome.
a great night.
And then it's parents' time.
Yeah, and then, whatever. And then, no, everybody, including parents. Asleep by 10:30.
You're right.
And then, New Year's Day, football, there's lots of all that good stuff. I think this year the Kings have a game on New Year's Day, which I have tickets for. I haven't decided if we'll go.
New Year's Day, NFL or college? College. Yeah, that's why I don't care.
Yeah, so
right,
it's,
on.
kind of the fun bowl game. So
okay.
Anyway, we'll see. But hey, it is obviously a time of year when people are thinking about resolutions, things of that nature. Where do you land on the whole New Year's resolution spectrum?
You know what? There's a bunch of areas in my life where I'm super organized. So, for example, if you look at my computer, it's very organized. When it comes to my teaching stuff and all that, anything that has to do with like organization of my books and all that stuff, I am hyper organized. There are other areas of my life that are not so organized. And the whole idea of going, let's revisit last year and let's plan for next year, forget it. I am totally out. The fact that we planned this episode, I had to think of resolutions because I'm like, all right, come on. I know I have resolutions. I just never do this. I never focus on it because it's just this long-term thinking. And I'm like, am I going to keep going with it? I hate making plans that I'm not going to follow through on. And anyway, so I am, yes, as much as I'm a holiday bah humbug, so am I a resolution bah humbug.
Well, it all kind of fits together.
It all
right?
fits together.
See, and it's funny because I'm sort of the opposite of you in the sense that I feel like if you were to look at my computer, you'd be like, how do you even function? I sort of know where everything is and I can generally find it when I need to, and I utilize search tools all the time. But I am hardly a model of organization. But I actually really I guess I've been through a cycle when it comes to how I feel about New Year's resolutions, because sort of you default to it initially, and then you
Right.
decide you're lame, or
Yes.
not well.
You're-
That's a separate conversation for another time. But
Right.
you decide that resolutions are lame,
Right.
And then I feel like I've come back around to the point
Yes.
where I just sort of realized the start of the year is a great time to just evaluate your life and say, okay, what are adjustments that I want to make that are realistic,
Yes.
that I need to do to, in order to get my life where I want it to be. So
Yes.
I am anti the like big, grand, crazy New Year's
Right.
resolution
Right,
that's
right.
only going to make you feel guilty on January 3rd. But I am totally pro okay, let's just take this as an opportunity to kind of wipe the slate clean a little
Yes.
bit and think about the future.
Okay, so here's the deal. Theoretically, I think it's brilliant. I love intentional living and purposeful living and planning and strategy. I think all that is great. I just don't do it for me in that way. And so I'm like, okay, I know it's great for other people. For example, Pastor Bishop Parnell Lovelace.
Yep.
Right? So he and his wife, at the end of the year, they actually have a sit down and they go, let's review the year together.
Wow.
That's
pretty
stunning
cool.
to me. That is so cool.
Yeah.
And they literally go through, hey, how did we do today? And I mean, they're analyzing marriage stuff. They're and I'm like, wow, I have such respect for that.
Yeah.
And then they set out goals for the next year. And I'm like, Susie and I would never do that.
Yeah.
That is not something we could do. So I feel like you and Christy could do that. I feel like, I don't know.
We probably could. We don't formalize it. It is sort of a tradition. This is very romantic, but like when we go out to dinner on our anniversary, it's
Yeah.
sort of a tradition to kind of review the year a little bit, but it's not like we're getting out spreadsheets and notes and taking notes and all that. It's more of just informal conversation about, how do we feel like this year went? What are major adjustments we made? What are big highlights? And then we talk
I
about,
knew
hey, what do
you'd
we want
do
moving
that.
forward? But I know people, like there's a couple in our church who like we're friends with, and you would know their names for sure if I told you, that they talk about how they do a year in review, and it's very
Yes.
comprehensive. One in the couple loves it and is like gung-ho about it. The other hates it, but I think sees its value. So,
Yes.
but I love that, but it does sound like a lot of work.
Yes,
So.
but don't get me wrong. I think, and this is one of the reasons why I was so pro this episode, is I love intentional living.
Yeah.
I think that this is beautiful, and so I'm glad I got forced to do this by you. Thank you.
So here's one last question, and I'm only asking you this question because I have an answer to it that I want to share. So we'll start with you.
Okay.
What if someone is taking the opportunity to say, all right, I want to look forward to this next year with some intentionality. I want to set some goals, make some resolutions, whatever. Any principles that you would say are good to have in mind to help somebody come up with good resolutions or goals for the new year?
Yeah, I think that, so most of my stuff, I mean, I go through a worldview of biblical lens, Christianity, Jesus Christ. So I have a really hard time talking about things that matter that don't really involve something about the Lord somewhere. And so what I would do is I would say, if you look through the lens of what is Jesus building in you, like what does he have? Does he have more freedom for you? Does he have, like, first you think big picture. Big picture, what does Jesus want to build in you? And then ultimately you'd say, as he seems to be designing and working on you, what ultimately are you going to lean into giving him more space to fix?
Yep.
Or that's where I start from. It's usually from, how do I partner with Jesus in doing what he's already trying to get done? And it looks like we're headed that direction. That's kind of where I would start.
Love it. Yeah,
Yep.
no, that's good. I guess mine is in line with that, although it doesn't sound as pastoral because I don't explicitly talk about Jesus as much, which, maybe anyway. So yours is better than mine. But I think about this. I think a lot of times we set goals without sort of saying to what end, like what's the point of making this goal? And I think that is, more seriously to your point about, okay, who is God creating me to be?
Yes.
I think is a critical question to ask in making these goals. But something that I remember coming across a long time ago that really resonated with me was there's this book called The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying, written by a hospice nurse who spent all this time around, and it's really profound. I haven't read the book, but I've seen the list.
Yes.
And the number one top regret of the dying is, I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. Wow. It's like, dang.
That's so good.
I think you can take that and go some kind of selfish and unhealthy places with it. But I think you can also say, okay, what do I want my life to be?
Yes.
Who do I feel like God is calling me to become?
Yes.
And then sort of reverse engineer it from there.
Amen. That's what I'm talking about.
So
that's
anyway,
so good.
I think that's important. So with that, enough chit chat. let's get into our list. Again, this is exciting. I don't know what you're going to say. You don't know what I'm going to say. But let's start with you. Give me your first big thing for 2019.
All right. Number one, this is probably the one that will probably be a little bit from left field, right? So we're going to start with left field. I would like to grow in minimizing my defensiveness.
Minimizing your defensiveness.
Yeah.
Okay.
So here's the deal, is that I get really defensive in conversations, that I take the world. Okay. So here's the deal. I don't take myself very seriously, but I take truth very seriously.
Mm-hmm.
And what that ends up doing is I start making things very personal, very life or death, very important. And when someone, I do so much thinking and analyzing about my opinions. I self-check myself.
Well done.
Okay, thank you. I'm always trying to reanalyze. Is my thinking wrong? Okay, once I'm done with all of that and I present out thoughts and ideas,
Yep.
I feel like I've already sufficiently torn them apart.
Mm-hmm.
When someone challenges me, I get immediately defensive because I'm like, whoa. You've not put any time into this. I have already put a ton of time into this. How dare you challenge my thoughts because I've already gone through all this, and haven't I lived a life that makes you trust me to where you would say, okay, I know who Lance is, I know how he thinks, this probably is the right thing. He will try to balance himself out. Well, by the time I get done with all that, someone just trying to get to truth, someone trying to process, someone trying to do what's healthy on their side, pushes back, and I get defensive. And I ruin their ability to process through and get where I'm at, right? Because I'm the one that brought up the conversation in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So I already had time to prep. They didn't have any time to prep.
Yeah.
So it is one of the least Jesus things about me, in my opinion. It's an embarrassment for me that in an argument or in a meeting or in something that I feel my tension rise, and I want to shut it down as quickly as possible. That to me is not like the Lord. And I'm so embarrassed by it that I want to really grow in that area. Now, I have made advancements where, for example, if something goes down, I try to pull out personal snarkiness. That's something that I worked on last year, was trying to remove snarkiness from responses and things like that. But there's more to it than that. Why is it stimulating in my spirit in the first place? Why is it agitating way down below? Let's say I contain it coming out, right? And people don't even realize I'm being defensive.
Yeah.
What is going on inside me that's building so quickly?
Yeah.
What is offensive to me? What is being violated? What core value is being triggered by this? And how do I make it more in alignment with the Lord? So, for example, if indeed we are living in true humility, right, which is actually one of my core values, if I'm truly living in core humility, I should be thinking about myself less and thinking about them more. So their ability to process, their ability to question me, their ability should be more important than me trying to justify who I am and what I'm talking about. So anyway, does that make sense?
Yeah.
I don't even know if I'm making any sense right now.
I mean, I think it makes a ton of sense, and I think a lot of people can relate to what you're describing, because it is, first of all, a lot of us don't really like to be challenged. Being challenged is not that fun.
Right.
And then second, when you feel like you've done a lot of work and somebody is questioning a conclusion you've come to through a lot of work, that is frustrating on some level. And it takes a lot of maturity, I think, to, like you said, to be able to basically realize, you know what, there was a point where I had that same question. I didn't have somebody snap at me.
Right.
I was able to either to research it myself or do some thinking or have somebody explain it to me. So now I want to do that.
Yes.
That's hard to do. So I guess my follow-up question then is, what practical steps can you take to reduce defensiveness? Because I don't think you're the only person on planet Earth who wrestles with this stuff.
Well, it was really interesting because a number of years ago, I was in therapy for some panic disorder stuff, and I was starting to get into a little bit better place, and so she said, "Well, what else is going on in your life?" And I brought this up because this really does bother me.
Yeah,
it's really not okay about me. And so I was like, hey, I'm really getting defensive, and what's going on? And what she ended up saying was, she said, all right, so practically, if you find when someone comes in, I want you to count in your mind when somebody says something to you that bothers you. I want you to count in your mind, 1, 2, 3 before you respond. And I want you to look at it like a game. I want you to look at it like a puzzle. So they just presented something to you, and now you are looking at it and going, oh, they just presented an interesting puzzle piece, and now I'm going to reassess the pieces.
Yeah.
In other words, get it out of being personal. That was
good.
the first thing we got to do is take the personal side out of it
Yep.
and look at it more. The other thing that I want to do is look at it in terms of developing the other person. Because as much as I would like to say, well, I just need to be a more kind person, or I just need to be more selfless, I think those are pie in the sky ideas. I actually have to lock into something that I'll actually do. And something that motivates me is either seeing it as unloving. I don't like being unloving. I like being loving. So if I can say, listen, I need you to be more loving when people question you. Anyone that is a questioner of you, they're your new person that you're loving on. So for me, that will motivate me from another core value, right?
That's good.
I got to make changes within core value to core value. And so practically speaking, I think that I'm also preparing before I go into meetings that I have to do a real quick self-check.
Yeah.
Hey, buddy, in this meeting, it is likely, and I mean, buddy, talking to myself, it is likely that someone's going to push back on you, and you need to give process a chance. Because, and stop being so scared it's going to get out of control. Because here's what I found out. I found out it's not that they're questioning me. It's that untruth is going to win the day. That's what's freaking me out.
Yeah.
I actually feel like things are going to go badly, both for the Lord and the world, if I don't speak up and shut it down, because I'm now the purveyor of all truth. You know what I'm saying? So it's not that how dare you challenge me as if Lance is a big deal.
Yeah.
It's you're challenging truth and the bad thing's going to win.
Yeah.
That's where I got to back off and walk into meetings and everything else and go, whoa. The Holy Spirit can work through process. You've got to mellow out. You've got to give it a chance so that God can move here and you quit trying to control everything. So anyway, those are a couple practical
It's almost like
things.
if you want the result you're after is good,
Yes.
but you're kind of, it's like the emotion of it can sort of hijack that result. There takes some self-discipline to realize, okay, if we're going to get to the right place where the truth wins and everything else, like I need to be able to kind of gently walk through this conversation.
Yeah,
which
absolutely.
Easier said than done.
Yeah, and I think that it's important for people to realize that when you do these types of resolutions and stuff, I really wanted to dig down to something that matters to me. If I was going to say I need to get back to the gym, well, that's a reality. Do I need to get back to the gym? Yes. Have I done that resolution many times? Yes. Have I, gym attendance is very high in January. So I get all that. What I wanted to do was make some resolutions that matter to me in areas that matter to me.
Yeah.
So I'm actually excited about talking about your number one. Can we shift to yours?
Sure. Yeah, we'll go to my number one. It's not quite as introspective as yours. This is a goal I have set for myself 3 times. I have never made it. I have almost made it all 3 times.
Oh, I love this.
Didn't work out.
Oh, I have a guess. I have a guess.
Okay, go ahead.
No. I want to know if I'm right.
Okay. My goal is in 2019 to either read or listen to at least how many?
Oh, I thought it was a book a week.
There you go. Exactly right. 52 books. Wow, that is impressive. Okay, we can just shut it down right here. We're done. Okay, so here's the thing.
I know, my friend.
I love to read. But I decided 2016 and 2017, I set that goal for myself. And I track the books that I read when I'm trying to reach that goal. So I actually have, even in my laptop right in front of me, I have my 2016 list and my 2017 list. And 2018, I decided was going to be the year of the podcast. So my goal was to listen to 500 at least podcast episodes of sort of up to me to decide, but minimum 500 episodes during the course of the year. And I decided I wasn't going to read. And here's what I found. I loved it for about 3 months because there's a million good podcasts out there like ours. But
Engaging Culture,
for example. But I just found it didn't really work for me. I wasn't learning as much. I did not find myself as sort of stimulated both intellectually and spiritually. Yeah. And I just felt like there was something missing for me when I wasn't reading. So in the latter part of this year, I still listen to, I have a news podcast I listen to on my commute that I really, really like. And I'll occasionally listen to sermons and some other things. But I don't really listen to podcasts anymore. And I'm getting back to reading.
Yes.
And I love it. And I think also it's important to not just have a quantity goal for reading, but but there has to be a quality goal as well. And it is sort of funny. I look at my list from 2016 and 2017, and like there are a few in there that I'm like, that was basically like watching TV. Like, I don't know that I learned a whole lot from that one. But it's interesting going back and looking at my lists, and it really is almost like a journal, like, because you carry these stories and these ideas with you, and I'm able to remember where I was in life at the time, and I'm able to remember how these books impacted me. So my natural bent is going to be to read theology and leadership. Like that, I don't have to really set goals for me there, because I'm naturally drawn to Christian theology and then leadership, both Christian and secular. I just find that pretty interesting naturally.
Right. That's your wheelhouse.
That's my wheelhouse. But what I want to do, and I'm conscious of, is trying to branch out so that I'm learning from people that have accomplished great things. So I want to read at least 5 biographies and at least one sort of a like low level back burner goal of mine is to read a biography of every United States president in my lifetime.
Wow.
And I've read like 8 or 9 up to this point. And so like at least one president this year, maybe 2. And then other just business leaders and other people who maybe would be a little bit offbeat. But I just find as I go back and look at other biographies I've read, I'm like, man, I learned a lot from reading about Elon Musk. That guy's a nut, by the way.
Yes.
I learned a lot from reading about Steve Jobs. Also a nut. The best are never all that balanced. But anyway.
Yes.
So all of that. And then trying to read a little bit of fiction, which I don't know. I don't read fiction. I should. I wish I did. It'd probably be better for my imagination, but I don't. But anyway, just trying to be...
You might need some recommendations from me.
So there you go. So trying to be intentional about picking really great books. Oh, I forgot. This is a key part of my goal.
Yeah.
Read 52, buy 0. I don't want to buy any books. 2019, sorry. B-U-Y.
Yeah.
I don't want to buy any books. I shared in a sermon a while ago that I have a minor book buying addiction, and it is absolutely true. So I have 1 million books on my Kindle I haven't read. And there's tons of ways to get like great ebooks and audiobooks for free through like the library and programs that like the library runs and apps and everything else. So I'm like, okay, 2019, the year of no book buying.
Ooh.
But the year of book reading.
That's impressive.
That's the plan.
Ooh, I like that plan.
Anyway, that's my own little wrinkle on it.
Are any of your books currently by Dr. Seuss or Theodore Geisel?
Those don't count, but I will take the I will take the opportunity to plug his underappreciated classic that is my all-time favorite children's book, and that is called I Can Read With My Eyes Shut.
Ooh.
I love that book. I have read it a million times, and I request it sometimes when I'm reading with my kids. They don't always oblige that request, but it is my absolute favorite.
Okay, so
book
Hop
ever.
on Pop was kind of a family favorite, but I was a big Yertle the Turtle fan.
Yertle the Turtle.
There you go. All right.
Oh, one other small thing in my goal too is
Yes, sir.
minimum 3 books about a subject I know next to nothing about.
Oh,
that's been another key thing for me.
Brilliant.
And some of my favorite books are like that.
Yes.
Like, we just had this speaker at a men's breakfast who is this crazy crew, like rower guy who rowed across the Atlantic Ocean. I read a book in 2016 called The Boys in the Boat, 9 Americans and Their Epic Quest for Gold at the 1936 Berlin Olympics. I know nothing about rowing. I don't care about rowing. This book, I remember I was traveling when I finished it.
Sounds horridly boring.
It was really long, too. I remember sitting in an airplane, landing in, I think it was Salt Lake City. I was traveling when I was finishing the book, and I am literally in tears at the end. I was so moved by this story that, like, again, couldn't care less about the subject, but it was an incredible story. So that sort of thing, both for education and for like activating different parts of my brain and just thinking in new ways, that's a big deal. So
wow, that is brilliant.
That's goal number 1. Goal number 2 for you. What do you got?
Goal number 2 is my boring one. And it is not boring in a dishonor to the Lord. It is boring because it's what everybody would kind of expect.
Are you going to read the Bible more?
Close. It is increase my quiet time with the Lord. So here's the thing that everybody kind of assumes. They assume that pastors have incredible quiet times.
Yep.
Here's what I've found is that pastors struggle with quiet times almost more than everybody else because of what we do for a living.
Mm-hmm.
It's that it is part of our job. And so what you don't want to do when you're done with your job is do more of your job.
Right.
And trying to figure out the interaction of what is really my personal walk with the Lord and what is my corporate walk with the Lord, it's really hard for me.
Yep.
And so when you were joking about reading the Bible more, because I do so much study, right? The idea, the other day I just pulled out the Bible and had to read it just for me because my brain I was in such a weird place. I had to re-rack, but I just do too much of it for work. So like for praying, I do a lot of prayer for work. Every meeting, I'm opening in prayer. We're closing in prayer. I'm praying about this. I'm praying about that. I get up in the morning and I'm praying. I'm doing, because I'm not getting up in the morning and I'm praying intentionally. I'm praying like when I'm in the shower. I'm praying when I'm driving and I'm thanking the Lord for things. So I have like conversation with the Lord nailed, right? Which is just doing life together.
Yeah.
And if I was to encourage people out there to say if there was a type of prayer I would love for you to become an expert at, it would probably just be life conversation, right? So, I'm not trying to say that I don't have that. I have a horrifically lame quiet time with the Lord.
Like sit down and focus.
Sit down and focus. And that is give him your best. Yeah. That is take some time to let him talk to you on more than just a soundbite. That is the reflection time, the meditation time to go, God, what is going on in my life? What do you want to do? It's your will, not my will.
Yeah.
It's the idea of being intentional to pray through things for a purpose. The idea that you would do prevailing prayer, the idea that I would do intercessory prayer that's a little bit longer. And I think depth of relationship, not just, it's different when, like Susie and I, we talk every day. We text periodically. And so we're in connection pretty much every day, all day. But that's different than a date time. And so my date time with the Lord is weak sauce. I have big experiences with God all the time because we lead church. I'm learning like vastly life-altering things every day because people are like, man, I had this great devotion the other day. It was life-altering. I go, I have that all the time.
You're having secondhand quiet times constantly.
Man, yeah. I have stuff that people are longing for and they maybe get once a year. I get them every day because I'm dealing with people that are going, this was life-changing. This is a miracle. So I'm engaged. I'm getting bombarded with spiritual stimuli. That still doesn't mean I have any legit quiet time with the Lord. So anyway, that's an area I need to grow in.
Can't relate to you at all on that. Just really, you're speaking a different language, man.
Yes.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It is so odd. Even, we did this, we're releasing this on January 1st, but as we're recording this last Sunday, we were doing, we did a big survey in church. We asked people to respond. And it was even interesting, if I'm being totally honest, there was the question of how often do you read the Bible?
Yes.
And I'm like, well, I read it every day. But I don't know that I can say I necessarily read it devotionally every day because I'm reading it for something work-related constantly. But there is that separate discipline of like, okay, you have nothing to prepare out of, the Gospel of John right now. You're just reading it strictly for the Lord to speak to you, which, he speaks to me as I'm, as he does to you in study and things like that. But it is different.
But here's something that many people may not understand because it's such a weird group that we're a part of. When I open the Bible, I can literally look at all subtitles and already know what's going on. So there is no part of the Bible that I open up and I go, oh, I wonder what this has to say. I already know the story before I get going. And so for me to kind of keep having to jump around and look for something, I end up in like Ezekiel. I end up in like messed up books because I'm like, that's the only place I can find something. And yet I want like something fresh about Jesus. Problem is I know all of his stories backwards and forwards.
Do you ever do this? I do this all the time and I hate that I do it. If you're like reading a different book and it's going to quote like an extended passage of scripture, and like I find that, John 3, Nicodemus, I know that, and I just skip it.
I skip
the whole paragraph. I'm
all
like, what am
them.
I doing? Like,
no, I skip them all.
Yeah, it's the worst.
Anyway,
All right,
move to
there we
yours.
go. Okay, so more quiet time with the Lord. Good. My second one, I'm talking about reading more. I want to develop the discipline of writing for 10 minutes a day.
Oh,
that's
wow.
it. Just keep a journal and write about whatever. Whether it's write about what's going on in my day, whether it's write about a thought that could be used for a devotional or something else later. I enjoy writing. I think that writing is a great way for me to process. I have a journal that I have on my computer, but I don't really ever write in it except for times where I need to process something that probably shouldn't be shared publicly. But But I want to get into the discipline of doing that because I really feel like recording your thoughts in a season of life is kind of a gift for your future self in a way.
Sure.
Like, I don't know about you, but anytime I am able to go back and read something where it's like I try to write down reflections on like a big trip or anything like that I go on, I love going back and reading like, oh yeah, that trip was so great, or oh man, that was such a special time. And I just don't have the discipline to write for 10 minutes a day right now. And I want to do it also because I want to get better at it. Not because I have aspirations of going off and writing a book or whatever. I don't know that I do at this stage of the game.
Sure.
But I think for my own health, my own ability to grow in just the different things I have to do for work, and in my own ability to reflect upon my own life, I want to create the discipline of writing for 10 minutes a day.
Okay, so this is a difference between you and me. I could not do that. That could not be my thing because I'm a brain dump guy.
Yeah.
I'm all in, all out. I get in these grooves, and all of a sudden I can dump a whole book.
9 hours twice a
Yes.
month.
Yes. And so the whole idea of 10 minutes a day, I'm like, I'm just getting started, or I'm just staring at a page for 10 minutes. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, I can't even do that. What a beautiful discipline.
So, well, you know,
I love that.
Great in theory, right? We'll see. You can ask me on January 12th how it's going.
Yeah, that's super cool.
Anyway, so that's what I want to do. Want to read, want to write. Okay, number 3 for you.
All right, number 3 for me is to strategically design my senior pastor role. So recently at church, just to give you guys a little behind the scenes stuff. So recently at church, we hired a gentleman named Josh Oot, who is our connections and communications director. That was Pastor Brian, who I'm talking to right now. That was his role. And so Josh ended up bumping Pastor Brian over into a role that I once again, I desperately wanted him to be in, and that is the director of discipleship that I was carrying for a really long time. So I was the senior pastor and also the discipleship director for a number of, it felt like decades. But I think it was just years.
About a year.
About a year.
Well,
year.
I mean, that's a long time.
Because ultimately it was after Jason Stewart.
Yeah, that's right. It was a while.
It's a while.
Yeah.
But anyway, in doing those two roles, a lot of people would assume they're the same. They actually are not the same. They're very distinct. But having been moved over into what ultimately is my best wheelhouse is the senior pastor role. And in doing that, there's a bunch of stuff right off the bat that I had just put on the back burner for the last couple years while I was doing the other stuff and trying to get back to it here and there, but nothing was really advancing. And so when all of a sudden it was opened up, it was like, oh my gosh, I have this project list, right? The problem with that is it's not strategic. And so what I wanted to do was intentionally design it out to say, okay, while you're doing projects, what ultimately are we trying to accomplish? What is the real heart of this job?
Yeah.
Don't be thrown apart by the tyranny of the urgent. Oh my gosh, I finally get a chance to get back to this stupid project that I've been trying to work on years ago. Well, hold on. What does the church need most? What has God designed you for most? What are we supposed to be doing here? So for me, it's to practically, so this is probably my most practical one in the sense of I can accomplish it. Like this can be a thing that can be written down through a job description with lists. You know what I mean? It's quantifiable.
Yeah.
But that is something that I really need to nail down because I have a little bit of a disruption in my spirit when I don't feel like I am strategic in my position to know what I'm supposed to accomplish. I do not want to end the year going, I was drifting in my senior pastor role. I want to say I dug in, nailed it, and now I'm in the zone.
Yeah. Well, it's a little bit of the reverse engineering we were talking about earlier. Is what do you want to be?
Yes.
How do we get there? Instead of just sort of randomly tackling whatever projects seem urgent or catch your interest or whatever.
And that has really overwhelmed me since we made the transition. And I'm still in the throes of that, feeling overwhelmed by that. And so what I don't want to do is let that rule the day. I want to push that aside for a moment, get some quiet, and say, okay, block it all out, and let's design on a blank sheet of paper
Yeah.
What does that need to be? So anyway, that's my third one.
That's really smart. I should probably do the same thing.
Oh, no, I'll tell you what you're supposed to do. Don't
there
worry
you go.
about
All right, you just tell me.
that'll work.
Easy. All right, just take care of it while you're planning out your year. If you could just take care of mine too.
Okay, good.
Save us both some time. Well,
What's
save
your
me some
third
time
one?
Anyway. All right, my third one is the least realistic of the three, but it is way more realistic now than it would have been a while ago. And there is some narrative that I need to build into this. So, for those who don't know, which is most, I by nature am not a morning person at all. I have always had a hard time sleeping, and I've had different seasons of my life where I've just sort of given up any hope of going to bed early, and I'll just stay up super late so that I'm that guy who's a grown adult having trouble getting out of bed at 8 in the morning, that sort of thing. In fact, there was one very brief season of my life. This was so embarrassing. We were living in Pasadena, but I got a job in Santa Barbara. And my wife had to finish graduate school in Pasadena before she could move to Santa Barbara. There's no way in heck on youth pastor salary and grad student we're paying for two places in Pasadena and Santa Barbara.
No way.
So I literally stayed in an RV in the driveway of a family at the church. I paid them a couple $100 and sort of that was it. And this is which that's not embarrassing, whatever. That's the season of life we were in. The embarrassing part is that I'd have to go in their house to shower, and the dude was in construction, which means he's up, super early every day. And weird environment, couldn't sleep anyway, whatever. So there I am rolling into their house at like 8:45 on a Tuesday to take a shower and get ready for the day. It's embarrassing. So I like to stay up late. I like all of that stuff. And how hard I'm getting out of bed. Well, I was inspired about a month ago by a book that I read to make some adjustments to my life, and I was inspired actually longer before that by just kind of thinking through our family rhythm and realizing, if I work more in the mornings, we can reduce the amount that we're relying on relatives and other childcare for my kids in the afternoon, which I would prefer anyway because I'd rather be with them. And just sort of realizing these jobs we have, they take us away from our families at odd times,
totally.
Evenings, weekends, whatever. And I'm like, all right, well, what adjustments can I make to be more present at different times? So even this whole fall, I get in the office by 6 on Tuesdays. So I got up at 4:45 this morning and was here at 5:45.
That's insane.
So I can I know, right? Brian from 3 months ago thinks that's insane too. But what I've realized is I can actually do it.
Wow.
And I don't hate it. I went to bed early last night and it was fine. And I got up, was a little tired this morning, but I'm doing okay. And it frees me up in the afternoon to be with my kids, which is a huge value. Now, I'm still kind of paying attention to work stuff, and I'll maybe do things in the evening or whatever the case may be. But here's the big goal is I want to wake up at 5:30 or earlier at least 5 days a week. So that's the goal, which again, Brian
good.
from 3 months ago is that's, you may as well say you want to grow a third leg. Like that's just impossible. And here's the other thing that I found is even when I don't come into work super early, I was discussing this with my dad the other day because he's sort of like me. He said this once and I totally agree. He says his two least favorite times of the day are when it's time to go to bed and when it's time to wake up. I'm exactly the same. If I could take a pill that would make me not need to sleep, I would totally do it. But anyway, which is weird. I just sidetracked myself. What am I even talking about? Oh, but here's the thing we were talking about is I said, hey, I'm trying this go to bed early, wake up early thing.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird, but it's working for me. And he was saying, we tend not to waste our time in the morning. Like nobody's binge watching Netflix at 5 a.m., but that's what we do at 11 p.m.
Yes.
So I find that even, the other morning, I didn't come in here until, 7:30 or so, but I was up early, had a nice quiet time, read a book, just a different book I'm reading for half an hour, started the day feeling good instead of waiting till the absolute last moment and, rushing around doing everything. And I don't know. I like who I am trying to wake up early. Now the question is this a fad or can I actually do it?
We're going to see, huh?
Trying to become a morning person.
Oh, that's so good. I love that stuff. I am, by nature, I'm a night owl, and yet my wife is a early to bed person. Mm-hmm. And so needless to say, we have all kinds of disrupted rhythms in our household. So I'm very impressed by your list. I think your list sounds awesome.
Yours sounds more spiritual than mine does. So I got to give you credit for that one. But anyway, all right. Well, hey, hope that you all enjoyed listening to us banter about our different goals for this upcoming year. Maybe it inspired you to think through some things as well. Would encourage encourage you just to, as we discussed, kind of look at who you want to be, what you want to become, who you feel like God is calling you to be in 2019, and maybe reverse engineer that into some concrete goals. Hope you enjoyed the episode. We'll see you in 2 weeks for our next episode of Engaging Culture.
Thank you for listening to Engaging Culture, a podcast by Bridgeway Christian Church. If you enjoyed this show, please consider subscribing and leaving a review on iTunes. Thank you so much for listening. Music is used under the Creative Commons license and is provided by Dexter Britton.